So maybe give me a rating in the chat, kind of 1 through 5, or unmute, whatever your preference is, of humanizing online learning. The liquid syllabus is one strategy that falls under this broader framework of humanizing online learning. How familiar are you with the concept or framework of humanizing online learning? 5 would be really familiar. You've actively tried to humanize an online course using various resources. To a 1, you're learning about it from me today. Great. And that was about what I would expect, that people that have an interest in the liquid syllabus have probably heard of it before, maybe even tried one, but didn't quite make progress for whatever reason in the past. So I don't think we need a lot of introduction to the framework of humanizing online learning, but I do want to connect what we'll do today with that. Within this framework is the idea of focusing our efforts on empathy, awareness, and presence. So seeing who our students are and seeing life and school through their eyes without judgment, learning more about who they are, and then making intentional efforts to construct our authentic selves in the online learning space. We often maybe hear of a syllabus as a contract, and this idea that maybe it's, black and white and a neutral document, but we do want to realize that our syllabi are not actually neutral, that we convey things through the language that we use. We convey things even through the format that is being used. So by creating this liquid syllabus, that's a mobile-friendly website, we're conveying certain cues to our students about our support for them as online learners, our scaffolding for their success. So keep in mind that ultimate goal that we have, which is to tell our students with this liquid syllabus, I will be a partner in your learning going forward in the semester. You signed up for this session based on the description that we'd be hands-on with a liquid syllabus, exploring some examples for inspiration, and then diving into the details of how do we bring together text, images, and video to build out our website. Our objectives, what you should be able to accomplish by the end of our time: identify features of liquid syllabi that may be best suited for you and your students from our examples. We'll get going on a Google site. I'm going to focus on Google Sites just for the ease of giving some hands-on directions, but there's always a possibility of other website builders that are also easy to use. So get some familiarity with the tools so you can keep building beyond today. And then we won't really dig deep into video, but we'll do some talking about video options, where you could make a plan for bringing humanizing video either into a liquid syllabus or even just into your Canvas course throughout the semester. Are there any goals or objectives that you brought with you today that you'd like me to keep in mind?
Well, the goal is always to try to get students to be motivated and to trust us, and so I put in a 4, but I really don't have any familiarity with other than my own efforts of trying to realizing that is an issue and trying to figure it out for myself, and succeeding sometimes and sometimes not. So the whole idea of liquid syllabus is something that I am not familiar with as it is presented, maybe. So you might want to fill back a little bit of the official ideas about it. But I see, especially teenagers, that they are very easily frightened. If they first don't succeed, they get really discouraged. So I would somehow like to communicate to them that failure is not an end of the world, that failure is a learning process. So just somehow how to kind of communicate my good intentions, because the intentions are there, but the tools, I'm lacking the tools of trying to get that across. So
Great.
that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Anna. That helps me a lot. And I like how you brought up the connection between trust and motivation. Those things go together as we try to motivate our students. I think a significant aspect of that motivation is the trust that we build in the
Right.
relationships
Right.
with them. And how do we help them navigate disappointment, have a growth mindset, that sort of thing.
It's
Thank
very
you.
hard to teach something people don't already know.
Yeah. I'm going to add a link in the chat because I'm not positive, Jeremy, if you added or if you came in after I had already put it in the chat. So just in case. Awesome. So we're going to dive into the components of a liquid syllabus. But first, I want you to explore some. So I'm also going to put into the chat this Padlet. And in the first kind of column of the Padlet where it's got the image with the sign uncertainty ahead, put ourselves into our students' shoes or think back even when we were students ourselves and what a liquid syllabus is trying to accomplish in particular for our maybe traditionally underserved students or the students that may feel most uncertain about being a college student. It makes me think back to if you were here at the convocation at Yuba College, we had Dr. Harris, and he gave us some strategies like being relational, taking responsibility as instructors to create the conditions for student success or to be culturally relevant and affirming. So that's the kind of student that you want to have in mind is the students that we already have in mind for our other equity-minded strategies. Those are the same students to kind of picture and have in mind here. So if you can just add a comment and you can reply with more than one comment or a single comment, it's up to you, but that'll kind of put us in our students' shoes as we look at some examples. So go ahead and take a moment with that Padlet and provide a comment on that first post on the left column.
Oh, there we go. I needed to open. Sorry.
These are great. Managing time is a big one. How do I connect interpersonally when we're online and not in the same place at the same time? Navigating the modules, particularly after COVID, students might be finding that how modules are set up in one course is very different than another. So we have our mindset of course design and how we want students to approach our courses, but we maybe sometimes forget that if they're taking 4 different courses, those might look very different in their navigation. And the most important question, where do I begin, right? Thank you for that, Dinah. And will the instructor be available? Cool. So with our framework now, go ahead and dive into one or more. You can kind of just open one and peruse it quickly and then go on to another one, or you can spend more time going kind of in depth with one. I picked 4 samples, and these are in the self-paced training as well, so you can find them there if you sign up for that. And you could just click on any one of the thumbnail images and it will take you to a liquid syllabus where you can kind of scroll and explore. And then in about 4 to 5 minutes, I would like you to leave a comment or 2 on any one of the syllabi that you explore with something that you noticed that relates to an uncertainty that students would have and how the liquid syllabus addresses that in a particular way in the example. So let's take about 4 minutes, maybe 5, of some exploring those examples. And I can stop sharing so that, oh, I wasn't sharing my screen. Somebody should have told me I wasn't sharing my screen. I apologize for that.
I didn't realize you
I will share my screen after we come back.
Okay.
So things that you identified, seeing the instructor in video, having that visual reinforcement and the audio, you hear a tone of voice when the teacher is on video, easily located information, week 1 success kit, our deal, advice for success, help humanize the course, highlighting the videos or other information about campus services like health services, DSPS. Great. So through those examples, you can kind of see what we're aiming for with our liquid syllabus, right? So we're taking some of the things from a traditional syllabus, how the class works, what to do first, or kind of a schedule of things, but we're putting it in a very mobile friendly, even though you're probably on a computer right now. If you were to look at any of these on a phone, they'd be very readable, and you could navigate very easily through these on just a small screen device like a phone. See, the idea is that this is going to go out to students in kind of a welcome email before they're ever really coming into the Canvas course, so that the student, should they get a notification on their phone of they have a message, they could just click, they see a hey, check out our liquid syllabus. And because I know a lot of uncertainty comes from students, I see it on our chat app that the college has, where students at the beginning of the semester start to ask, who sees their Canvas courses on their dashboard? I have 4 classes, but I only see 2 and whatnot. And I know instructors, we always want to make sure that it's kind of perfect and just right before it's published. So this can kind of be a happy medium too. We can get students with all the things that they are going to be asking questions about in this really engaging and easy to look at format without any logins and passwords. And the Canvas course can either be published with just a very simple homepage that says, hey, check out our liquid syllabus, or you can wait to publish more toward when the semester actually begins. Great. I won't show this video in our time. I want to make sure we have some hands-on, but it would be nice to go check out later if you save the link to our workshop module here. It just kind of gives that insight of how students are likely to access this. If you've ever tried to access, say, a Word file from Canvas, has anybody used the Canvas app as a student? So if you've used it, or, oh, go ahead, Dinah.
Not as a student, but I could view it as a student, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes it can take a long time for even a simple document to load, even on a computer screen, but especially on a small device like a phone, the kind of pinch and zoom, it's really hard to read a multi-page document of relatively small font. So the really nice thing about a website is how easy it is to make it look engaging, but then also from the user side, how easy it is to read. So if we were to break things down, even though the syllabi had commonalities among them, they were all from a cohort of professional development that Michelle Pacansky Brock, I don't think I mentioned her name yet, but a lot of this material comes from Michelle Pacansky Brock, who is a California Community College professor and also professional development provider. And she's been working on a large professional development project specific to STEM faculty. So that's why you see a lot of STEM examples here. But if we were kind of break it down and see, well, what will all liquid syllabi have, no matter the subject matter? We're going to start with a website authoring tool. So we're not going to use a document that is traditional. That doesn't mean that ultimately there's not a document in Canvas. It just means the student's first experience with the syllabus is in a mobile-friendly format. It's going to start with a warm greeting. This ideally would be through video, but you could also bring warmth through the types of pictures that you use of yourself and a greeting message in text for students. You probably noticed how easy it was to kind of scan for information and kind of digest the big picture of a course, right? It's what's often overwhelming and brings a lot of cognitive load to students, is just the density of the syllabus in a text-based environment. So providing kind of chunks, that's an instructional design principle, whether you're in Canvas or in your website. Chunk it, make it easy to read, use bullets as makes sense to break up the text, place some photos or other types of graphics so that there's plenty of white space. That's a big part of reading online is the white space that kind of breaks up the text and aids the comprehension. And then we're going to look at formal headings that define these sections or chunks, because that's important for accessibility, that somebody who's using assistive technology will be able to scan in a similar way as somebody who's visually scanning. So we'll talk about those headings too. You can kind of see that concept of easy, digestible information that's also accessible. And then there's a focus on inclusive and openly licensed images. So I'll be sharing with you some places that you can grab some very, very nice images to use for your liquid syllabus without having to spend hours searching for them. So keep in mind that uncertain student and whether they will see themselves in the images that we're presenting. And you can also think about graphics. Somebody mentioned time management before. A pretty easy graphic to put together with something like Canva or even PowerPoint shapes and things would be kind of a visual look at what week 1 looks like, or a visual of kind of how the grades break out. So you can also think about graphics that you can pretty easily create. Okay. So the two technologies that we'll focus on, mainly Google Sites today, but in the self-paced training, there's also information about Canvas Studio. So Google Sites is really where you build out that website that you're seeing in those examples. And it's good to kind of have in mind how you might visually picture your site, you know, how much text and how many photos and kind of where those go. But one of the nice things about these website builders is how easy it is to go, oh, I don't like my picture there, I'm going to drag it, or I want to move this text up. It's all very flexible, so don't feel like you're making final decisions on your design as we kind of play around with the Google Sites today. And then Canvas Studio would be a great recording app to learn, if you're not already familiar with it, easily made humanizing videos that just bring you onto the screen, and you can convey both verbally and with nonverbal cues your support for students and your welcome and here's how to get started kind of message. And there is some considerations in terms of Studio and Canvas versus a liquid syllabus video, which would often be placed on YouTube. We can take a Canvas Studio video and make it public, and we can embed it onto a site. So you can just use Canvas Studio. The only thing you lose with Studio outside of Canvas is the number of views of your video. But the thing that you gain with Studio in Canvas is insights that actually tell you by name and by watch time how many students watched your video, who watched it all the way through. So you might also think about your welcome video being in Canvas, not just in your liquid syllabus, and you would get viewing insights in Canvas from your video. So those are a couple of things that we'll think about. But again, Canvas Studio, I left mainly to the self-paced one. So we're going to get hands-on with Google Sites. Does everyone have a Google account, or do I need to think about anybody participating without a Google account yet? We're all good on a Google account?
We're all good with Google account.
Okay, awesome. Let me just get to my own here. So if you were to go to any tab, like in Chrome, and you have your profile picture in the upper right corner, if you're logged in, and you have kind of what's called the waffle of Google Apps, you could find sites that way, or you can just type in to the browser, and I'll put this in the chat. I'll leave the chat open so I can make sure I see any questions or comments there. And just let me know if, by unpausing or in the chat, if you need more time, but I'm going to assume with the familiarity of already having a Google account and clicking on the sites link in the chat, that you'll be good to go and kind of be logged in and can follow along. There are some choices of templates, and you can kind of play around with starting with the template gallery and then moving things around or deleting things that don't seem to be relevant for you. It's recommended by Michelle Pacansky-Brock to just start with a blank one. I'm kind of 50-50. I tend to start with a template and delete a fair amount of it as I kind of picture my site coming together. And then sometimes I'm good with, let's just do a blank page. So if you click on the blank page plus, you're prompted to give your page a title. So I'm a former biology teacher, so I'm just going to call this Bio 101. And then you would have a place to create the site title, and it will update there. So I'm just going to call it Sergeant Bio 101. And then if you want to bring some interest to the default banner, you can either select from various choices that are pre-made for you, or you can bring in your own images. So if I have a nice picture of a sea turtle, maybe for a biology class. Okay? And you'll notice that the color of my image changed a little bit when it got brought in. And there's these little stars here. It says remove readability adjustment. So it brightens it up, but then it makes it a little darker. So what Google Sites is trying to do is it's trying to help us be accessible with our text over a graphic or some sort of color. It's trying to raise the contrast so that it's more readable. And there are official ways to check for that color contrast as well. But when you bring a picture in, if you wonder, why is it changing the brightness or affecting the color? That's the reason why. It's trying to bring accessible contrast to the text. So those are the pre-built things, the site title, the title within the header. So this is called the header, where my sea turtle is. There's an option to create the type of banner you want. So I could go with a large banner if I wanted my sea turtle to be more visible, for example. So it's customizable from that point. And then anywhere on your site, you can double click. So I can double click in the header area. I can double click in the white space below, and double clicking anywhere gives me this kind of wheel where I can choose to add text, embed. So that'd be something like a video embed code. I can bring something in from my computer or Google Drive, an image. I tend to not use the double clicking as much as I do using my options over here. So if you look over on the right, there's insert, and it gives you the 4 most common things: text, images, embed, or drive. Or you can just click a content block. So if I think I'm going to go ahead and say welcome and type something into my students, and then either put a picture or video over here, I can easily set that up by just choosing the content block from the right that already had a structure that I wanted. So you can play around with those options of text and images together in those content blocks. And there's also options that you can create dividers or buttons, that sort of thing, or even like a YouTube where you would search for it and then it would embed it. So you wouldn't even need the embed code from YouTube. You would just need the website. So over on the right, those are all of your kind of content tools to build out what's in the main part of the page. If you want to change up the theme a little bit, so I was on insert with these tools for text and images and whatnot. Then there's pages. We're focused on a simple kind of one-pager liquid syllabus. We want to make our liquid syllabus very simple to start with. What is the most essential things that students need to know and that will help them feel comfortable coming into class on the first day, even an asynchronous online course? And then what Michelle Pacansky-Brock does with hers is she adds some pages, but she doesn't make those visible until the course gets going. So it's very straightforward and simple. One page, students just scroll and see those essentials, and then she opens it up into additional pages. So we won't really get into additional pages, but I can help you with creating more pages. This would be an example. This is one that I created as an example when I did the @ONE equity course. I needed somebody's syllabus to use. So Carrie Wassinger was very nice and let me borrow her syllabus. So you can see that there's kind of extra navigation here: course description, teaching philosophy, support for you, where there's the various services. But the main thing is welcoming the students, that greeting, telling them how the course is going to work, how they can contact, that sort of thing. So we're going to keep it pretty simple. Let me find where I was. There we are. Okay. But themes, this would be where you can change up the look of the website a little bit. And you can just click on a theme and you can see how it changes. You know, maybe I like that kind of box and I like how it changes the font there. So I'm going to stick with that theme and go back to insert where I have my content tools. Questions so far? Are we good with kind of the header and just getting started with content on the page? Any questions or thoughts? Do you want a little hands-on time with me being quiet so you can play around for a bit? Let me give you about 2 or 3 minutes, because I know it can be hard with the screen sharing and watching the demo on Zoom and working in your own. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing for a moment and give you 2 or 3 minutes to just kind of spend some time with your own site on the header or playing around with a content block and bringing some content into the page. So I'm going to show you a few other things and we'll kind of build out some placeholder sections, and then I'll let you get back to work on personalizing it for your course. Let me go ahead and share my screen again. So where I'm at now, I'm in my Canvas studio. So on the left kind of gray bar underneath Commons is Studio. If you've never used Studio before, you just see a blank page here. But if you have used Studio, then you'll see a library of videos. And if you haven't used Studio before, you can see in the upper right here, there's an add button or a record button. Add would be if you want to bring videos in. So let's say you're familiar with Camtasia or other types of recording apps, you can bring it into Studio so that you could easily caption it. Like Camtasia has horrible captioning, so I would bring it into Studio to caption it, or other recording apps that allow you a MP4 file. You just bring it here, caption it, and it's easily embedded directly into a content page in Canvas through just your regular rich content editor. So if you were putting a video in Canvas, super straightforward to do that from Studio. You can also hit the record button. You can screen capture. So if you wanted to give students kind of a tour of the course of in your liquid syllabus, hey, this is who I am. I'm so excited you're here. I love teaching this course because let me show you what we're going to see in Canvas so that you're comfortable the first day, and you give like a little tour around. Well, you would do a screen capture, and you can do your webcam and a screen capture at the same time so they can see you at the same time. Or you can just do a webcam capture. It's going to look just like us here on Zoom, right? And then once you have a video for your Liquid Syllabus, you would need to embed it. Unlike a Canvas page where you just go into the rich content editor and can embed it directly and easily through there, there's a little extra step getting it to the Liquid Syllabus, which is going to be public. You would need to, oops, I shouldn't have clicked that. There's 3 dots on any of your videos, and there's a share media option. You click links. It may prompt you to create a public link. If so, just click the button, create public link. And then there's the URL kind of link, but then there's also the embed code. And the embed code is what you would want, starting with iframe and so on. If you were to host a video in YouTube, which you might, like Camtasia allows you to directly upload to YouTube, or a lot of phone apps, if you just do a humanized video on your phone, allow you to upload directly to YouTube. If you were to go to YouTube, you would have an embed code option there as well. And in case you've never used YouTube before, because you all have Google accounts, you actually all have YouTube Studio accounts, even if you've never used it. So in my waffle of apps here, YouTube is an option. And I can click my profile picture and I can go to my YouTube Studio, which is where you would see any videos. Like you could see content here, and you can see if it's public and how many people have viewed it and that sort of thing. So you have 2 options for bringing a video into. So you would just click embed and you would copy paste that embed code. Okay. So before we get to our placeholder sections, any questions that you want to ask about videos? We're not really getting hands-on with video, but just in terms of some concept to the sharing or creating of videos. Any questions? Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and create. I'm just going to put a text box in here for an example. And I'm going to make this a heading. And I'm going to make this about the course. Now, a heading is something that creates an accessible structure to the page. So I wouldn't have wanted it defaults to normal text, but I wouldn't have wanted to like make it a large size font or bold just to make it a visual heading, because that wouldn't be accessible. So I'm going to make sure I use the heading option. The only thing that is a title is what you put up here in the header picture banner at the top of the page. Everything else is a heading. So this welcome, oh, that should actually be a heading. It defaulted. So sometimes you have to check the templates that get brought in here. That should be a heading. And then maybe about the course, I'm going to click and notice it put a text box above. I want to bring it down. I just drag it. So maybe I have a subheading of first week. And then I'm going to include just random letters for now. So if you have subsections, you want to go with subheadings as your text. Now you can create more visual designation of headings using the little palette to the side. So you can delete a section, duplicate a section, or change the section colors. And this is based on the theme. So if you don't like the color, you can always come over and change the theme. You have a couple of style images, so that one's a little more subtle. And then I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this and drag it down so that I can easily create another section. I'm going to call this Communication Essentials. And I can just double click and put a text box and again some placeholder text. So right now my students would see a nice warm welcome greeting, maybe a video, if nothing else, a warm friendly picture, some information about the course, some communication essentials, and let's see, somebody mentioned a week 1 success kit. So I'm going to duplicate one more time and put in a week 1 success kit. Oh, can't type apparently. And then in some placeholder text. So you can start to see how that comes together with your sections. Again, if you were to have subsections, you could even have text in columns. So a lot of times you can, it's pretty easy to like drag, and it gives you markings, so you can kind of see, and then you can drag this. So you could have like how the course works as a subheading, and then some information. So you can have columns. I could come and I could put an image here. I'm just going to select a random, well, I don't want from my, I don't want from my drive. I want from my computer. So let's say I want a nice kind of motivating, you got this. I can put it on the page. I can drag it over. I can make it bigger. So you can see it's very flexible, right? So you can kind of put anything anywhere and drag and rearrange as you feel fit or see fit. And then the last thing I'll have you do is add a button. So I'm going to say something like, go to our course in Canvas. And how about I just grab that URL for the moment. And buttons, same thing. You can kind of rearrange them. You can say, okay, I want it in the middle. Maybe I want a divider to go above it, something like that, right? And then the key thing is then to publish your site. So it will have sites.google.com at the front, and then this is what will be at the end of the web address. And then you can decide whether you want public search engines to find your website or not. You want to leave it that anyone can view it, otherwise your students wouldn't be able to view it. And just because you publish doesn't mean somebody's likely to actually see this on the World Wide Web. So I publish all the time. Basically, I'll create a section or add some text, and then I'll click publish. And it tells me, well, you didn't change anything. So, and then if you want to see how your site's going to look in different devices, there's a preview button where you can switch between tablet and phone. So I see, oh, this is how it's going to look to my students on the phone. So that's in the upper right here next to there's undo and redo buttons. Those are helpful. And then preview. And then you can also, next to the publish button, you can also view your published site so that you're not seeing the content editor and so forth. So thoughts, comments, questions on kind of building out the general framework of your sections or managing your content on the page? So let me give you a, go ahead. Yeah.
I'm just saying no questions, but it's going to take me a while to do this.
Yeah.
At old age, huh?
So we are close to the end, but I want you to go ahead and take, how about like 2 more minutes I'll stop screen sharing, play around with your site again for about 2 more minutes, maybe previewing it or publishing it. Again, there's no risk in publishing it. People aren't really going to find it by just searching. I know it would take a lot more hands-on time. Hopefully you felt like there was at least enough where you can keep going from this point. If you feel decently comfortable with just the hands-on time you got today, you could continue your liquid syllabus in kind of a self-guided way just through this quick reference list of sites and studio and whatnot. If you want more of the guided walkthrough of the steps, there is the self-paced training. I linked to in the chat my own liquid syllabus. That was an example for the training. And at the very bottom, if you go to the Canvas course link, that gives you the option to self-enroll. So you can do that for flex credit, actually turning in your liquid syllabus at the end, or you can just optionally do it on your own pace if you don't want the flex credit. And then I wanted to point out that the final page in the module for this workshop in the course design form, which is publicly accessible, no enrollment needed. There's a nice, about 5 minutes, sorry. I have the video set to automatically start at 40 minutes, and I would encourage you to pause about 45. And Michelle Pacansky-Brock does a nice summary of kind of how she implements her syllabus once she has it built, how she coordinates that with Canvas. And then a common question we all get is, what about my traditional syllabus? We still recommend just a basic plain text. Don't make it fancy, just headings and text for your Canvas course. That way students who prefer to print it for future reference can still do that. And then you also have your orientation module in Canvas, where you can also add some humanizing language and kind of expanding on your syllabus. So you got to kind of think about what goes where and what's most valuable in what place. Yes, so Matt, there's extra flex credit if you enroll in the self-paced course, and there's a couple of discussions and then a assignment to submit the syllabus, and then that's 6 hours of flex credit, because we can see that's going to take you some time to get through. All right, so I'll go ahead and stop sharing. Okay, so we're just about to time, have a minute left, but I do want to give you a chance to ask questions. If you need a reminder of how do you get back to what we looked at today, I'll send out an email that will help you remember and provide direct links to the materials that we used today. So I've got time to hang out past 11, but I don't want to keep you past 11. Sorry for the phone that's ringing right now. But thank you so much for your time, and have a great weekend if you're signing off. Otherwise, I'll stick around and ask some questions that you might have from your practice.
Cynthia,
Thank
this
you.
is great.
Good,
This is
good.
fantastic. I'm gonna
Thank
play
you.
with that for a long time.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, and it's so nicely visual, and it's amazing. Thank you so much.
Good, I'm glad. All right. Thank you, Emma.